Buildings left in ruin. The coastal town of Paktaw in western Myanmar has been decimated from recent fighting between rebel forces and the ruling military junta. Its 20,000 inhabitants paid a heavy price for massive air bombardments from the junta. The Arakan army, one of the strongest components of Myanmar's anti-junta forces, wrested control of the city. Several people have asked for anonymity for the safety of themselves and their families. In the country's southeast, other militias captured the major border city of Myawaddy, but quickly lost control a few days later. For every loss, though, the rebels have made gains. The junta has ceded direct control of over 86% of its territory since the start of the conflict in 2021, according to the watchdog's Special Advisory Council for Myanmar. As the country remains mired in conflict, is there a way out of Myanmar's civil war? The tide seemed to have turned against the junta in recent months.
The military is losing territories. The other ethnic resistance organizations, ethnic armed organizations, they are gaining power. The territories are becoming independent. And people are refusing to support the military. There is another entity, the National Unity Government, that has democratically elected representatives who are willing to, who should be recognized as the legitimate government. So there is hope. There is hope for Myanmar to become democratic again.
Myanmar's military staged a coup against the country's democratically elected government in February 2021. Since then, General Min Aung Hlaing has ruled over the country through the State Administration Council. After a brutal crackdown on civilian protests, militias loyal to the overthrown government, the People's Defense Forces, rose up in rebellion. Meanwhile, various ethnic groups like the Karen people in the south have launched anti-junta campaigns across the country. The latest rebel operations have included Operation 1027 in the northeast, led by the Three Brotherhood Alliance, and another in the southeast, along the Thai-Myanmar border, led by Karen militias. Hundreds of Tatmadaw soldiers were seen surrendering to rebels in May, like this group to the Arakan army, or fleeing across the border to India. Thousands of kilometers of borders and roads have come under threat or have been lost, cutting the junta from lucrative sources of income. It's clear that the junta is struggling now more than ever.
And what that means for them is a loss of course, humiliating loss of face and logistical sort of control, but essentially it's the loss of control over billions and billions and billions of dollars of trade, both legal, in and out of the country, that country that needs a lot of stuff, and illegal, the illicit economy, which is absolutely vast in Myanmar, from drugs to contraband of all kinds.
While the military remains in control of the Burmese heartlands and the country's major cities of Yangon and Mandalay, it has been forced to adopt drastic measures to ensure its survival.
Hard to say that they have any limits right now because it's been 3 years since the coup and they are showing no signs of reducing it. In fact, they're forcing people to join the military to fight for them and fight against the people of their own community.
The military government enacted conscription in February 2024, forcing young people aged 18 to 35 to join the Tatmadaw with the aim of enrolling 60,000 people every year.
And this has had a deep impact on the young population in Myanmar. we have seen that there's been an exodus of people who've been wanting to flee the country to evade these orders, to evade these conscriptions, because what we have documented is that the military soldiers are basically ending up at the homes of many of these young people and forcefully picking them up and taking them to trainings where they're asking them to hold guns and, do forced labor for the military.
As a result, thousands of young people have fled the country, or even worse for the junta, have joined PDF forces outside cities. Many have tried entering neighboring Thailand, either by a now rarely issued work permit or by illegally crossing the 2,400-kilometer-long border. Thailand fears that fighting along the border may spill over into its territory, like the latest conflicts involving hpa-an militias concentrated along the Thai-Myanmar border. The kingdom has also been forced to respond to an influx of refugees fleeing violence or conscription.
We need to prepare, we need to plan. We cannot just ignore situation inside Myanmar as an internal affair. The non-interference policy should not be taken serious as a priority.
The previous Thai government, led by former General Prayuth Chan-o-cha, had long been seen as cooperative with the Tatmadaw. Chan-o-cha himself seized power in 2014 thanks to a military coup.
So there's a natural sort of ideological alignment between the two sort of military-run countries, but there are deeper background relationships between very senior generals on both sides of the border that stretch back many, many decades.
But Thailand's current Prime Minister, Srettha Thavisin, seems to envision another path to peace.
I think we all know that the current regime is starting to lose some strength. Okay, let me propose you with a different idea that when somebody is losing, do you crush them or you talk to them? I think it's the latter. Okay? Even if they are losing, but they have the power, they have the weapon. Okay, but if they know they're losing or weaker than their opponent, maybe it's a time to reach out and make a deal.
The new government of Srettha Thavisin, genuinely wants to, aware of the concussive effects of what's going on at the border. It wants stability there, and it would like to help Myanmar towards a more democratic future, back on some sort of track, and certainly ending the sort of civil war chaos that's engulfed it. But ultimately, the Tatmadaw has shown it's willing to sink the country into as big a hole as is necessary to survive. So whether Thailand can expect to rightfully exact any leverage over them is another question.
But despite Thailand's willingness to resolve the crisis, experts say it will require more than goodwill to end the conflict, especially as the humanitarian crisis deepens.
The outside world isn't paying enough attention as it should be paying to Myanmar. And the people of Myanmar say that they are forgotten. These atrocities have been going on for decades, and it has just gotten worse over the last few years. But the world moves on very quickly to another atrocity, which also deserves attention, but people of Myanmar also deserve the attention that they need.
As of May 2024, more than 3 million people have been displaced by the ongoing conflict in what the UN has called a bleak milestone.